questions that are ultimately going to lead us into the talk to realize the magic of communion, the magic of a common union that is always present with us, that Shelley so beautifully illustrated. A common union that is actually presence, and it is a magic that is far beyond any differences we experience in our relationships. Are you ready? You ready? So my first question is this: do you have a relationship or relationships where there are some real differences going on? I hope so. Otherwise, you may be numbing yourself just to cope, right? This is part of our journey. This is part of our journey, and it's okay. Number two, this morning, would you be interested in a spiritual science that could take you far beyond any differences in your relationship to living that life, a life that was within you, that wants to come forth and express more of you? Would you be interested in that spiritual science? Well, you're in the right place. You're in the right place. You see, the whole reason that you're here and you're interested in that is because there is more. There is more of you that desires to come forth. And this morning, we're absolutely going to look at that through forgiveness. There's more of you, and you desire more of that to come forth, else you wouldn't be here. Else you wouldn't even be here. You know, if you ever watch these near-death experiences, I mean, these days you can get on YouTube or you can watch them in many different videos. At the end, when they get done explaining their health story, you'll often hear this. They get all the way to the end, and then they hear this voice, or they have this knowing that it's time to go back. It's time to go back. There's more. There's more. Have you heard that before in one of those experiences? It's very, very common. So do you want to realize that more? Like I said, you're in the right place. So the last talk I gave was about becoming conscious of the life that you've come to live. And we looked at that through the story of Jonah, and we saw that Jonah became conscious of the life that wanted to live through him in greater ways, and we saw he was resisting it. I mean, he was absolutely resisting it. In fact, he was running from it. He had a reason for running from it. But at some point, he says yes to it, and he goes on to experience some success with that. Now, in the story, Jonah is called to go to Nineveh, and he's to go to Nineveh, and he's to call them to return back basically to their center, right? Return back to their center. But Jonah, after he has this success in calling them to come back to their center, and they do, he hits a major, major roadblock. For you see, the mission Jonah was sent on, he was sent to set those free who had caused great domination and oppression over his people. He was called to call them out of this truly scarcity consciousness, right? Survival consciousness. That's where the dominion and the dominance and the oppression was really coming from. So they do that. They come back home. They experience this exceptional freedom, but Jonah doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. He's like, they tortured us. And I don't like it that they've been simply set free by returning to their center because they hurt us. And if you read his story, he stays stuck there. The story actually closes out that he's stuck at that place. I'm wondering if this morning you would be willing to see together with me a new and radical way of seeing just what your enemies are. Would you be willing to see that this morning together with me? It's a truth that Jonah never awakens to in the story, but it's primary for you realizing that more that you desire of yourself to come forth into expression. Would you be willing to see this morning that I've got some real differences with them, or they've done me wrong? Would you be willing to see what that's calling you to? Yeah. And to do that, let's enter one of the most radical moments of the consciousness of love found in all Scripture. I mean, this is a radical moment of the consciousness of love. It's a moment where forgiveness accomplishes atonement through communion. Through communion. It's a moment where forgiveness accomplishes our at-one-ment through our common union found in presence. There is a common union. Whether those you disagree with have come into agreement or not, there is communion between the two of you and between all life. There is an at-one-ment. Now here's the scene, and here's the undeniable truth of the spiritual science of atonement, of at-one-ment. And this is true whether your enemies are interested, or even those that you have differences are interested in atonement or not. So it's Jesus on the cross. He's sentenced to death. He's innocent, but charged as guilty by those projecting a different view than the one Jesus is embodying. Right? They're projecting a totally different view than he's embodying. Their differences, and for reasons, of course. He's innocent, charged as guilty, yet he has been sent as the one to transform this world through a consciousness of love, just like you and I are sent. That's what we're sent for. But they've decided to crucify this one that was sent to transform fear to love. I mean, if there has ever been a potential them and me scene, it's this scene. Would you agree? I mean, if it's ever been this possibility of collapsing into a them and me consciousness, it's this scene. Would you agree? Yeah, it is. But he doesn't collapse into this them and me. Rather, he remains in a consciousness of love, for he knows this is the only way to heal humanity's belief in separation. In fact, it's the only problem there is on this planet. There's only one problem and there's only one solution. The only problem is separation consciousness, fear. There's no other problem. That's it. And there's only one solution, and that solution is love. That's the solution. So how does Jesus choose to realize atonement, or the conscious realization of at-one-ment? How does he do that? He chooses to realize it through forgiveness when he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now, traditionally, many of us has heard this as asking the Father to forgive those that have wrongly accused him. Just forgive those ones that have wrongly accused me. But obviously, Jesus isn't trying to change the Father's perception when he says, Father, forgive them, for they know what they do. I mean, if informing the Father that they're in ignorance is necessary, we're all in trouble, right? We're all in big trouble. But that's not what Jesus is doing. Jesus, what he's doing is he never leaves that common union that I'm referring to this morning. That common union which is presence, which is I am. He's remaining as a consciousness of love through presence through it all. What Jesus is essentially saying when he is being deeply wrong and says, Father, forgive them, for they know what they do, what he's saying is, Father, in this holy instant, in presence, I allow your perception of their innocence to remain embodied in me now. He never collapses into us and them. Father, in this holy instance and presence, I allow your perception of their innocence to remain embodied in me now, for I see a consciousness of love is not yet awakened in them, and I'm here to demonstrate it. I'm here to demonstrate it. And so are you, and so am I. That's what forgiveness accomplishes. That's what it accomplishes. For me, this changes everything, because suddenly forgiveness is no longer about pretending harm didn't occur. That's not what forgiveness is. Harm occurred. And gross harm has occurred to many of you, and it's occurred to me. So we are absolutely not talking this morning about forgiveness as some type of passive spirituality. This morning, we are not talking about, hey, what happened to me is fine, just don't worry about it. You know, in time, I'll just be okay. That's not forgiveness. And it's not what we're talking about. Jesus clearly sees the violence. He clearly sees all the unconsciousness that's all around him. The cross Jesus had to bear was not blindness for him, nor should it be for you and me. What the cross really is, and what a consciousness of love really is, it's refusing to become what it's beholding. That's the miracle. Refusing to collapse into us and them. The miracle of Jesus' cross and of our cross is not surviving the suffering of our accusers. It's that when we die to identifying with our ego and its belief in separation, we are no longer hurt. Are you with me? You've had that experience. As we begin to awaken, that whole thing about psychological hurt begins to dissolve as we practice and practice and practice the presence. You see, at some point, the point when a consciousness of love has awakened, what happens is as you awaken, the more you don't experience psychological hurt. When a consciousness love has awakened us, we may still feel physical pain. I mean, if we're experiencing physical pain, get out of there, right? Get out of there. That's not what forgiveness is, staying with that. Or we may still feel sorrow or grief, compassion, or profound sensitivity, but there is no longer this psychological injury. No longer is our identity offended. And when a consciousness of love is awakened us, we no longer form and hang on to grievances because there's nothing to prove. There's nothing to prove because nothing has been diminished in who you truly are and never will be. It never will be. So Jesus, he remains open. When a consciousness is love is not awake, there is this, I'm hurt by you. But and we do still have to be honest about that. We still do have to be honest that there are going to be times when we're still in that space where we're hurt. And it's very important that we become conscious of that too. But what happens as you begin to awake to this consciousness of love, we begin to know, you just begin to know nothing real has been diminished here. Nothing real has been diminished. I'm still the truth of I am. I still am. And I'm just here to awaken to it. Perhaps that's what this is all about. Perhaps all of this conflict is about awakening to the power of that truth. Are you with me? Yes. And in this awakened state, this knowing that nothing is real has been diminished, there is not emotional suppression either. What there is a stabilization into our common union that the other also shares. Are you with me? It's about stabilizing into this common union that the other shares, whether they're willing to meet you there or not. It's there. And you are in communion with them, whether they're willing to meet you there or not. You see, true communion is not about sameness. It's not even about reaching agreement. It's not even a collapse of our differences. Rather, our true communion is a state of grace. It's a state of grace. It's a state of grace where the more of you comes forth, whether differences are resolved or not. Are you with me? It's a portal. Your presence is a portal for the more of you, whether the other is willing or not. Isn't that freeing? Anything that is a spiritual truth is absolutely liberating. It's absolutely liberating. So often, before we become conscious of the power of grace to bring our new day, we're caught in this kind of stuff. If only they would change. If only they would apologize. You ever been there? I can't move. They got to apologize. I'm right. I know it. You see, there's no dropping into this common union. There's no dropping into this state of grace where there's this portal where more of you comes through in that stuff. It's not even this collapse of we may be saying, how about this one? If only they would wake up. Have you been there? Not me. I've been there. Or how about this one? And this is false. It's a lie. If only they will meet me halfway. Insanity. It's not about you surrendering you. Absolutely not. When we are caught here, we are believing that communion is something that requires the participation of both parties. Oh, it takes two. I used to say that all the time. Well, it takes two. It takes two. Been there? Yeah. But Jesus' example on the cross completely overturns that idea. He completely overturns that idea. In fact, nobody's meeting Jesus in this outer communion. I mean, the soldiers aren't, the crowds aren't, the religious authorities aren't, the political authorities aren't, and many of his disciples aren't. Yet communion is fully present in his moment of forgiveness. Why? Because communion is not dependent upon the ego agreement of the other person. Could somebody say amen? Amen. Isn't that liberating? Yes. And it doesn't mean that we're not here to develop the skills, the consciousness, to develop those relationships. Doesn't mean that. That's not what I'm talking about here this morning. We should be committed to developing that consciousness and those skills to bring others into union with us. But what Jesus is really demonstrating here in this story is that our communion already exists at a deeper level than any belief in apparent separation. The communion we are visiting this morning is not something we create together. The communion of a consciousness of love is something we awaken to and we notice, it's there. Have you noticed that in your journey? It's there. It's always already there, and its magic through grace is always already there. We do not enter sacred communion because another person joins us. We enter communion because we stop leaving it. We stop leaving it. Jesus never left it. And his prayer was to remain in it. He had to remain conscious in that moment to remain in it, right? He could have collapsed. He could have collapsed into us and them. He had every reason to. Let's look at 5 things that happen in a communion state. Number 1, in communion, consciousness of love, perception expands. Instead of my side versus your side, or, there emerges this larger field capable of holding paradox. And it's capable of holding the complexity of the moment, too. Number 2, in communion, our identity softens, right? It does. Did you know the ego's identity depends on opposition? It depends on it. But in communion, the larger self no longer needs enemies. It no longer needs superiority. It no longer needs blame. Number 3, energy previously bound in conflict becomes available for creation. This is a big one. I cover it often. This is where this whole title comes from, where the metabolizing the energy of our differences comes in. You see, when consciousness stops investing energy into defensiveness and resentment and retaliation and grievance with the other, that energy literally becomes available for our healing, for the healing of this planet, for the healing of all around you. It becomes available for your creativity to live that more of you that wants to come forth. It becomes available for you to drop into wisdom and compassion and intuition and into this presence in a more powerful way. You see, a state of grace that comes from a communion conscious is not merely emotional warmth. Grace that it brings, what it truly, truly is, it's a liberated life force energy. You see it in every one of our stories. The dove comes down and the one rises up. The life force energy has been released. Jesus, when he comes up out of his baptism, here comes the dove. He's been totally, totally open to the truth. There is no thoughts about who I am other than I am a child of God, and so is the other. And you see it so beautifully illustrated that there's this portal that we drop into in communion. There is this grace, and that grace liberates literally. We're speaking about literally this morning, releases that life force energy for you to rise and become more of that you that you've come here to be. Number 4, communion becomes a transmitter field. When someone sustains a communion found in presence amid differences, the field around them changes. Have you noticed? Yeah, what happens is others start to begin to feel safety. They begin to feel safer. They begin to feel permission to be themselves, to express their own ideas, even if it is different, because you're holding presence. Others begin to feel even a coherence, a regulation, an openness. And they become aware of more possibility, and there becomes this possibility attitude, right? Why? Because the union consciousness is contagious. It's absolutely contagious. And number 5, the one holding union consciousness becomes transformed. But the person is not merely practicing spirituality, right? What's also happening, the more you practice this, the more you begin to just naturally move into presence amidst differences. What happens is your consciousness starts to reconstruct. And you'll know it when it's happened. You'll know it as it's happening. Through repeatedly choosing openness over contraction, what happens is our nervous system, our psyches, our emotions, and perception begin to reorganize around love rather than fear. Have you noticed? Yes. You've noticed that. And then when you notice it, it grows. I can never go back. I can never go back. I know now what this state of grace is. So if the musicians want to come forward, I'd like to wrap this talk up, and I'd like to do that by just going back to that moment of Jesus when he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what to do. And just like to summarize this talk. The reason Jesus forgives is to remain established in the common union. And that common union is the Father's presence, and the Father's presence is the I am. You see, your new life that wants to live through you comes into manifestation through this portal that is I am. It's the spot of at-one-ment. That's the spot. And we all know after Jesus' moment of forgiveness and the atonement, he goes on to realize and ascends into a greater expression of the life that he came for. That way is our way to your forgiveness and your expanding awareness of your at-one-ment potential will bring forth the more that is you that is now desiring to be fully lived. Do you want more of that life? I sure do. And I just know from watching you, you do too. Else we wouldn't be here. Else we wouldn't be here. There is more waiting for you to come for us, so just move into that state of goodness, remain in that state, and you will experience more of the next stage of your life. Namaste. Namaste.